So you're interested in digital elevator screens for your residential building. Well, congratulations. This is definitely a step in the right direction, and it means you're serious about improving communications with your residents. Now, before you can make a decision, you have to really understand your options, which should be easy to do because there's really only two in the marketplace to choose from. And before you make your final decision, you'll probably want to calculate your return on investment, at least the best that you can. And I'm here to help you do that today. My name is Phil Falcone, and I'm a partner with Digi. In an ideal world, if every resident is informed and educated about all the rules of your building, about all of their rights, and if they understood all their responsibilities, I think it's pretty safe to say you'd see a massive reduction in the amount of repairs. You'd see a minimization of legal risks, and you'd be massively reducing the amount of disputes between residents. But you'd also be building community. And this community would lead to a stabilization of fees because everyone knows the rules. No one's breaking the rules. And this creates a greater community, not just of the building, but of the brand of the building, which is ultimately going to increase the property value for everyone. In an ideal world, I want you to imagine this. Imagine if every manager had the support of a professional communication team, an internal team that could help them instantly upload notices that everyone in the building could see. And not just see, but remember. And you'd know that they'd remember them because you're actually able to set targets. Targets that allow you to say, hey, after running those notices, we really saved a lot of time. And after running those notices, we really saved a lot of money. And after running that campaign, we really minimized the amount of headaches we were seeing on a daily basis. And this allowed the property management team to be better focused on their work. You see, by producing measurable results, everyone from the board to the property managers to the support staff can all enjoy a healthier work-life balance. Let's face it, in the real world, the reason it's difficult to effectively communicate with your residents is simple. There's just too many residents. Most buildings these days have hundreds, if not thousands of residents, all living busy lives, all connected through different devices, and there's a lot of information already coming their way. So if you look at all the issues and topics that you have to cover, well, that's a lot to communicate. And each one of these topics or issues, well, they require lots of information. Not just one notice, but you have to have several notices. And usually you have to have a frequency of those notices for them to be effective. That's the way it works in the real advertising world. And let's also face it, any company of this size that needs to connect with hundreds or thousands of residents or employees, let's say, well, they would have a team, a dedicated team of communications and marketing experts just to reach out and make sure that everyone knows all the information that they need to know. The sad reality is that property managers are challenged by the methods of communications. They still print up notices, paste them around the building or on notice boards, and expect residents to see the notices, read the notices, and retain all the information. Well, this just simply does not work. Not only do they look unappealing and unprofessional, but it's just asking too much for residents to stop and take the time to read all this information and retain it, and then act upon it. Well, the other challenge is that property managers often send out these notices via email. And because they send it out, they think that everyone's received the information, which, as you know, emails come into your inbox. Sometimes you open them, sometimes you don't. Sometimes they sit there for a while before you read them. And even when you do, you're still asking a lot from the residents to read them and retain the information. And if you had to send all the emails you really needed to about all the information in your building, that would be an overload of emails. And forget about websites. That's really asking too much from your residents to take time out of their day and go visit a website and read up about all the information that they need to know. And as a result, almost every building that I have ever walked into, every residential building has water leak damages, expensive utility bills, legal dispute fees, clogged drain repairs, garbage chute repairs, and the list goes on and on. And so does the adding up of these costs. It's very costly, not only on the budget and strains on the budget, but also strains on the property management team's time. And imagine if you can just reduce some of these issues or eliminate some of them. Imagine how much time and effort you would save your building. The good news is there is a better world. Elevator screens, also known as digital notice boards, are very effective in connecting and communicating with your residents. Part of this effectiveness is that unlike screens that would be located in your lobby or in your mail room, elevator screens are where your residents ride each and every day, usually several times a day. So they're face to face with your notices, your communication, for at least 4 to 5 seconds per floor. It gets the message across. And this is really where you can better understand your options, because there's really only two. Advertising based screens are funded by ads, third party ads, which you really can't control. So you're really subjecting your residents to ads that could be counterintuitive to your building and its brand, but also who wants to see ads when they leave their house each day and come back? Part of the problem as well is that, well, a lot of these screens have touchscreen capabilities and also feature news feeds which distract from your notices. So where does that leave you is that you still have a place to place your notices, and that even with templates which the company may provide, you still have to create the notices. And well, that just takes a lot of time for your property management team. They have to not only create the notices, but to really understand how many notices they can run, and who knows how many people are actually looking at, reading, and retaining the information. The other option is an ad-free model, which only DigiNotice provides as a service. And you can see the difference in, well, it's pretty plain to see. You have a full screen notice that only communicates one piece of information in a clear, creative way. That is what we're all about. Welcome to a better world. In understanding your options to choose the best elevator screen provider for your building, it's very important to note DigiNotice is the only company in the world that provides both the installation of commercial grade screens 100% focused on your building communications. That means no ads whatsoever. And DigiNotice is the only company that also provides a service, providing professional communications needed to create all your notices, to manage all your notices, and when possible, to measure the results. So you know how much money you are saving, how much time you are saving, how much headache you are avoiding, and making a difference to the bottom line of your building. By changing the behavior of your residents, it's doable. We've seen it, and we're going to prove it to you. And all of this is done without any disruption to how you currently work. As a property manager, you will still create your notices. You'll send them to us just as you would all your residents. And within a couple of hours, we'll create a very creative, clear, concise notice that will be uploaded to your screen. But instead of reacting every day to the notices you need, we often sit down with the property managers and understand what a 12-month calendar would look like. So we're preparing well in advance notices throughout the year. Once again, this saves time, this saves money, this saves hassle, and all of this is shown and, when possible, measured to show you how DigiNotice pays for itself. It's an investment worth making. So how do you calculate your return on investment? Well, first off, it's very important to note, DigiNotice is the only digital notice board solution proven to effectively communicate with residents, making managing, directing, and living in a residential building better. And when we say proven, that means we've actually taken the time to measure the results of our notices within buildings to see how much of an impact they've made, how much time, headache, and money were saved as a result of our notices and campaigns. This is an example of a water campaign that we created for a condo that had over 3,500 residents. About 75% of them were renters. The campaign had about 30 notices, and they were broken up over 3 different parts. The first part was about customizing the information to let residents know how much water they consumed the previous year and each and every day on average. The second part of the campaign was to provide water-saving tips in the bathroom, in the laundry room, and in the kitchen. And then the third part was educating them about preventing leaks. By the end of the first month, we had already saved the condo corporation about 20,000 liters per day, and by the end of the year, those savings added up to about $25,000. So it is very possible to reach a building with many residents, many of them renters, and to change the behavior to make a difference. In this campaign, we actually challenged residents to reduce the amount of usage of their hydro by providing tips throughout the month. And in spite of increased rates by the city, residents rose to the challenge and actually saved the building $5,000 in costs the very next month. That is incredible. Garbage chute jams and cleanups are all too common, especially in high-rise condos. After running this particular campaign, we were able to save this particular building about 5 hours a week in garbage cleanup and in clearing the chutes. And they did not have to call in a garbage chute company that month, which is usually about $500 to $600. Although it's a little hard to measure the effectiveness of these notices, we know that they work because every one of our clients asks us to run these notices several times throughout the year in order to help reduce the clogs due to fats, oils, and grease and reduce the overall amount of cleaning costs. Many residential buildings experience problems that arise from short-term rentals, especially from websites like Airbnb. The first time we ran this campaign, our client identified that they saw a significant drop in the number of short-term rentals. But better yet, they reported that a security culture was established, meaning that residents were more aware not to let people follow them into the building unless they had their own fob. This is an example of a campaign that we created for a client that had thousands of residents, many of which were renters, and they were experiencing very, very problematic issues arising from their balconies. So what we did was very unique. We created something that appealed to the residents of the building in terms of their age, which were primarily young, to create a fun but kind of shameful way of communicating the issues that were arising from the things that were tossed from the balconies. The second part of the campaign was all about the reasons not to toss anything from balconies. And the third part was all about balcony etiquette. Well, I can tell you that this was a huge success. Residents reacted right away, first by voicing their disdain for the notices, but then realizing this was for their best interest. And the superintendent and the property management team reported a drastic decrease in balcony tosses within days of the campaign start, which saved them money in cleanup. But better yet, it established a new culture, one in which residents were made aware to be respectful and responsible in how they dealt with their balconies, but also how to be respectful to their neighbors. Every residential building will undergo a major project at some point, whether it be maintenance, renovation, or even construction. And these projects last anywhere from several weeks to several months. So there's a lot of communication that needs to be communicated to residents about why the project is taking place, how long it's going to take place, how it impacts their lives, what is expected of them, and updates along the way. We work closely with property management teams on these projects in order to communicate with residents at every step of the way. And what that does is it drastically reduces the amount of time and effort needed by the team, the property management team, to answer all their questions and concerns. We make sure that everything has been addressed at every step of the way, which makes for a happy building while the project is underway. I've provided examples of how DigiNotice connects with residents through communication that is both informative and educational, usually around dealing with issues or preventing issues, which of course is ultimately going to create a healthier, happier overall community. But we also help property management teams create notices that promote social events, activities, and even amenities. So that's a lot of information to take in a short amount of time. But I'm certain that you have learned a lot. And that's because this is what DigiNotice does best. We take a lot of information and we distill it down into small amounts that you can easily understand in a short amount of time. My partner Sue Langlois, who founded DigiNotice, and I both have about 25 years experience in marketing, communications, and media. Sue alone started DigiNotice 10 years ago and has been pioneering this new way of communicating and connecting with residents in buildings. So we know a lot and are very, very good at what we do. So when we ask if you're interested in digital elevator screens or why you're interested in digital elevator screens, then we hope the answer is that you're serious about improving communications with residents, because we sure are. So in understanding your options, I just want to make it clear. There's all the other companies, and then there's only DigiNotice. All the other companies work on an ad-sponsored model. That means your screens might be cheaper to install, but you'll be entering a long-term contract, usually about 5 years. And what happens in that time is after the installation, your provider will be running third-party ads on your screens, as well as providing information like sports, news, and weather from feeds from different partners of theirs. And that leaves a little bit of space for your notices. Now, those notices, even if they provide templates for you, you still have to create and you still have to upload. So just keep in mind that in addition to saving money, you're also spending time managing the information that goes on the screens. And I think you can see from all the other previous slides, this is no easy task. It takes a lot of effort, but it also takes a lot of skill and knowledge of how to create the notices, how many notices to run, and how long to run those notices. And all those notices are competing with all that information like those ads, which you can't control. And for me, I am an ad man, so I can tell you I would not be happy if my board or property management team wanted to install ads in my home where that I have to see each and every day. On the other side, there's only DigiNotice. DigiNotice provides an ad-free model. We're the only company in the world that does this. That means we provide 100% service working with your team to create notices, to manage notices, and when we can, measure the results. We're an extension of your team, we're professional communicators, and we address issues that make a difference in not only saving your team time, but in saving your condo corporation or building a lot of money and headache. And we're great at building community as a result, which is really, really priceless. So the last part of the equation in making your decision is calculating your return on investment. Well, we've provided a number of slides already that talk about the challenges of going with an ad-sponsored route and how ineffective and technically unmeasurable it's been, because I've never heard of a building say that they've measured the results of any notices or campaigns. On the other hand, we talked at length about how DigiNotice tackles issues and provides your team with ways of communicating with your residents better through our service-based model. And all we need to do really is deal with a few issues, get a few of those costs down, save your team some money, and you'll see that the DigiNotice combination of screens and service pays for itself, not only over the short term, but lasting over the long term. And there you have it. Improving communications within your building starts by starting communications with us here at DigiNotice. Sue and I would love to set up a time to sit down and discuss how we can work together with your PM and board of directors or with your company. And all you need to do is give us a quick call, send us an email, we'll set the time aside and get the discussion going. Thanks for listening.